Hey there, this is Peter and welcome to another Take a Break with Valley CAD. So this is part 2 of our 2-part series of our design challenge with our catch-all tray that we started making in a previous video. This one right here actually, and also the link is down in the description in case you didn't see the part 1 yet. So what we worked on in part 1 was working on solid modeling approach, and we used the intersect command. And in this one, what we're going to be looking at is solely surface modeling. And so you're going to see that it's going to take quite a few more features to make this part, and there might be some little gotchas with it as well. So go get your favorite cup of coffee or tea, and I'll see you in SOLIDWORKS in just a click. Hey there, welcome to SOLIDWORKS. So here's the model that we made in our previous video, and as you see here, we did solid modeling on here. Now when we're going to come in and do the surface modeling approach, working through this, it's actually going to be kind of the same features here, but the thing between solid modeling and surface modeling is that you have to come in and create every single surface when you are in a surface modeling approach. So sometimes it can be slower than just coming in and doing solid modeling. So let's go ahead and open up a brand new part file here, and I'll show you how we'll come at a surface modeling approach. So I'm just gonna do a standard part template here, and here we are with a blank slate. All right, so, and also we're gonna put that picture of our original model up above my head here for you as well. All right, so coming in, I'm gonna use the same sort of scenarios as I did with my previous model. I'm gonna start on my top plane, and what I wanna do is make a new offset plane however far up I want this to be. So in this scenario, we'll make so it's 2 inches as well, just like our previous model there. Then from here, what we're gonna do is come in and create our sketches. So I'm gonna start on my top plane and we'll create a new sketch from there. And we'll make another slot profile, right? And I'm gonna do a center end slot style here. So we're gonna use our origin. So that way we're going to create symmetry in a 2-axis plane, so along our vertical and also our horizontal axes there. And in this scenario, we're going to make this so it's our total height on this is going to be at 16 inches tall, and then our total width on this at the base is going to be 2 inches tall. Or 2 inches wide, I should say. All right, so now we have that. We'll simply say okay to that to get out of that sketch. Then from here, what we're gonna do is create a new sketch on our plane 1. So from here, we're gonna come into sketch, create a new one like so. I could have also used my shortcut keys or whatever other shortcut you might have. And in this scenario, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do an offset entities command. In the previous video, I just made a new slot. This one, we're gonna do the offset command. So in this one, we're going to select sketch number 1 as I see in my design tree. We're going to say offset entities on there and then give it whatever value I want it to be. So in this scenario, we'll say offset 1 inch. So that 1 inch, if you're not able to do math, you could come in here and do a smart dimension and say, hey, how wide is this thing? But you're going to see a warning message pop up. You're going to see, hey, you're over defining your sketch. What are you trying to do here? You can actually say, hey, let's make this new dimension I have driven. And so that way I could just see an overall value on this, but really my driving value is that 1. So if I came in here and said, hey, let's make this so it's 0.75, you'll see that this value automatically updated. Now this is just so you could see a reference dimension, but it's not needed. So it's totally up to you if you want to add this or not. So I'm going to make this go back out to 1, and we'll simply say okay to that to get out of our sketch. All right, then from here, what we need to do is come in and make another offset plane. And what this is gonna be setting up is a 1/2 inch from our bottom up. So we need to have some material in our catch tray. If not, we're gonna have a nice hole for stuff to just fall through, right? So we're gonna utilize our top plane here. You're gonna hold down Control, click and drag. That's the quick offset plane variation. We'll make this so it's a 1/2 inch up, and we'll simply say okay to that. With plane number 2 pre-selected, we're gonna come in and make another new sketch, and we're gonna make another slot profile here. And so we're gonna make this so it's gonna utilize our existing sketches. It makes it really useful for when you are modeling, try to use existing geometry, right? So that way you only have one area that you need to update the dimension in. The more dimensions that you put in here, or more rules you put in here, the more clicks you're gonna have to do. And whenever you have more clicks, the more likely you might forget one, which will lead to a mistake in the part. So that's why I like to try to use existing geometry as much as possible. So in this scenario, since it's being driven by our existing sketch of 16 inches, right? All I need to do is come in and give it a value of how wide I want this to be. So in this scenario, we'll say be 1/4 inch width. Okay, so that's an overall width on that slot profile there, not a radius. Think of it as a diameter. So here's our sketch geometry so far. Now, as we looked at the original file, as you can see above my head, the one that's kind of closer this side, down on this side, it's not a perfect kind of slot shape, right? It's kind of offset a little bit there. So what we're gonna need to do is create another sketch on our plane number 1 there. So with plane number 1 selected, I'm gonna create another sketch like so. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do another offset command. And with this offset, what we wanna do is come inward, and we'll make it so that this comes in at 1/8 of an inch. So 0.125, like so. And I like to click reverse a couple times to make sure it's going the right direction. And when I'm working with offset entities, I like to try to work in my property side as much as possible. Don't click in your graphics area, because if I click right now, you know my offset's going inward. SOLIDWORKS will actually flip it to the outside because it's always on whichever side of the entities that you're clicking. And you can tell by looking at this little yellow arrow that's flipping back and forth. So I wanted to go to the inside, so I'm going to click to the inside like so. Then from here, what we're gonna do is I need to set up that kind of weird shape on this bottom end over here, right? So with that selected, I'm gonna click on this arc entity there. And with this, push delete. And what I wanna do is actually draw a new arc. So I'm just gonna slide these up, these 2 lines up. I'm still keeping my offset entities relation there. Having that relation there will make so it's fully defining these other 3 entities, which is really convenient. So coming in here with an arc command, I'm gonna do a 3-point arc. I'm gonna simply click, and then drag my cursor downward like so. So as we look at this, what we need to do is fully define this thing. And so one thing that we gotta make sure on is that this line, holding down Control, selecting that arc, our tangent, and also do that on this side. So whenever I do that Control click and click, if I have the same entity, entity as in this arc being shared between 2 lines, I like to click off to the side, so that way it unselects everything. Then I'll just simply come in here, hold down Control, click, and say be tangent again. All right, so now all we have to do now is give it a value of how far in do we want this to go. So we're gonna do a simple smart dimension. I'm gonna hold down Shift and click on these 2 arcs. Holding down Shift will make it to where we're not going from center to center. In this scenario, it's gonna go from nearest. All right, so in this scenario, we're gonna say be 7/8 of an inch or 0.875, right? And then from there, we can simply say okay to that. Awesome, so now we have all this kind of the skeleton, or these are the profiles that we're gonna use to come up with our final model actually. So as we look at this here, what we're gonna utilize under surface modeling is a lofted surface. Yeah, so surface modeling has lofting in it, just like how we did in the previous part with solid modeling. So with the lofted surface selected here, we need to come through and click on our profiles. So what I want to do is see this point and this inside point there. That will come in and create my inside shape. All right, cool. Now on this side, it's looking a little funky, right? Compared to this side over here. And you could tell by my zebra stripes. I have those turned on while I'm doing my lofts. It makes it really convenient to be able to see how's this thing kind of transitioning into each other. So with that selected, it's totally okay because remember, I'm gonna come in with an angled plane here. So we're gonna simply say okay to that. And there's my first surface. Cool. Now we're gonna come in again and we're gonna create another lofted surface. And that's gonna be used between this outside profile and that outside profile, and simply say okay again. So as we look at this, all I did was create the loft around the perimeter of our shapes. I actually don't have anything in the center here. And also I need to connect from this edge to that edge. So between the 2 loft profiles actually. So there's a couple ways that we could go about it. One of them is you could do a filled surface, or the other one is a planar surface. So since these faces are flat, I'm gonna utilize the planar surface approach. So planar surface selected, I'm going to simply click on this shape here and right click. Now you will notice that there are blue edges here between my surface bodies. And keep in mind how I said surface bodies, because even though I made a new surface here, it is a separate body from this existing one here. All right, so then from there, I'm going to do another planar surface. I'm going to do it from this edge to this edge, because if you see here, without clicking on its inside one, SOLIDWORKS is just trying to fill in that entire perimeter. So what we need to simply do is just click on this inside edge, and SOLIDWORKS will knit it up nicely in between. But once again, these are individual bodies. You'll see here I have 4 surface bodies now. Okay, now you will notice that I do have an opening at the bottom here, right? The inside slot shape, that's okay. I only use that to come up with my geometry for this inside loft. I actually don't need a surface body there, because what's going to happen is I need to come in with that angled plane like so. So what we're going to do is come on my right plane here and create a new sketch and draw out that angle. Now, when we did our solid modeling, I came in with some little sketch geometry to help locate where this is going to be. In this scenario, I'm not going to worry about it this time. So what we're going to simply do is draw a line here. And with this line, we're just going to draw it at a certain angle like so. Not a big deal. I don't care about putting an angular value on it. All I care about is coming in and click on this point, holding down Control, clicking on that arc, and say pierce. And then also do that on this end. So I'm going to click on that point, hold down Control, and we're going to grab this arc there and say pierce that as well. Perfect. So now we have that, we're going to come into my surface modeling tab. We're going to say extruded surface. In this scenario, we're going to say do a mid plane, and we want it just so it extends beyond this inside geometry. So 5 inches will be safe, 4 inches will work as well. So we're going to keep it at 5. All right, so now as we look at this, I do have 5 separate surface bodies. And so what we need to do now is come in and knit this up. Now, before we knit it though, I need to actually come in and kind of clean it up. I need to, either intersect or trim. Now I use the term intersect because that's what we used when we did surface or the solid modeling part, right? You can definitely do that in this example too, but I'm going to show you another feature, and that's going to be the trim surfaces command. So before we activate trim surface, I want to hide this outside body here. And all that I did was I hovered over it and I pushed tab. To bring it back, push shift tab. So hiding this just temporarily, what I want to do is activate trim surfaces, and the surfaces that I want to trim with is this one and this one here. All right, so now with that set up, what I want to remove is this one and then these outside wings, if you want to say. And then from there, we simply say okay to that. Cool. So now I'm going to hover over this, push shift tab so it brings that body back again. And then from here, you'll notice that I got one less surface body, because what actually happened when I trimmed the mutual between this angled loft and this angled plane here, it actually knits them together as well. So we're going to continue on with this and make a solid out of this by doing knit surfaces. From here, just do a simple window over all that. We're going to say create solid and merge entities and say okay. And then from there, you'll see that we have a final part that looks an awful lot like our existing one that we had, right? As we look at this here, all right, cool. And then here's this one. Only difference on it right now is that we don't have fillets on this part just yet. As you can see here, it's taking quite a few more features here to be able to make this part here, but there's some really cool tricks being able to work with surface modeling. So I hope you enjoyed our 2-part series as we looked at how to make this existing catch-all tray. If you are enjoying these videos, please click that thumbs up button. Also click subscribe so you get notified of future videos. Have a great day and make sure you learn something new.